All right, good evening, folks. Today is October 23rd, and it is about 6:04. We are the Groton Board of Education, and it's my honor and privilege to call the meeting to order. And Rebecca, would you be willing to lead the board in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be honored to.
Thank you, my friend. And it's right, like literally behind.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we would have normally been able to recognize our MLK Groton students, but we would like to have Andrea present and also in really good health. And I see that she is joining us by Zoom, and so I'm very excited about that. But Susan, do we not have anyone else here that we're recognizing?
No, but we will be recognizing them before the big January event at St.
Cool.
John's. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
How was Thursday?
It was spectacular. I saw many familiar faces. Yes. No, but it was spectacular. I got to meet my sponsors, Pfizer, and it was a big networking event. I got to know stuff about the industry, and it was a big relief when I finally did my speech because we were all working so hard on it.
You did a great job.
And we were all standing there and accepting our awards, and we're like, we did it, guys. Because we were so shocked because it took us so much work, and it wasn't really work because we enjoyed spending time with each other, but so much constructive criticism and going through the speeches, and then we just all stood up there and were able to just soak in the moment, and it was beautiful.
I am so happy to hear that you soaked in the moment. For the people who are on Zoom or in the audience, I was actually asking her about her experience as an MLK scholar and the Thursday dinner and receiving the
Catherine
$25,000. So
Regan.
Catherine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we did our own little recognition of our visitors.
Yes.
And it's your prep for the
next event.
when
Yes.
we do it.
Yes.
All right. And so this portion, I'm moving us forward. This is the comments from citizens, and this is the portion of the agenda where the board welcomes comments. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton, and board members will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and cannot respond during the comments of citizens portion of the board meeting. And citizens should make their presentations from the podium and state their names and addresses for the record. Is there anyone, I guess Caitlin and Mark, is there anyone online that is wishing to speak?
They have to raise their hand or put anything in chat faster.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address? As Zoe makes her entrance. Never think you can sneak in with me around. Sorry.
You're late.
All right. Since we do not have any comments from citizens, I am going to be moving us on to actually truly one of my more favorite parts of the whole meeting, which is the student representative report. And now that Zoe is here. And so I don't know how you guys have decided to do which one, who goes first and who doesn't go first. But I'll let you guys kind of figure that out. And all that I ask is that you introduce yourselves, just so that people who might be watching us or on the Zoom will know.
Hi, my name is Melanie Fleming. I'm a junior, and I would just like to say that I think the student body at Fitch is delighted to have Mr. Brown as our new principal. I think everybody is really excited for him to just start being the best principal that we can have, and I'm really excited to welcome him.
That's cool, Melanie. Thank you.
I'm Zoe. I'm a senior at Fitch, and I can give my report after Catherine introduces herself.
Okay, yes, hi, I'm Catherine. You already heard from me. But the one thing that's really sticking out is we have a lot of exciting things coming up in terms of like school spirit and like, not pep rally, but like sort of esque. We have our football season coming to an end and also our Powder Puff game, which is really exciting, and it's my senior year, so I'm going to participate. But yeah, so it's just a lot of fun, exciting school spirit stuff that's happening at Fitch.
Cool.
So for NEA, they are having their kindergarten through second grade literacy night, which I guess they call it Camp Read Some More. That was on Thursday, and then, or last Thursday. And then their fourth grade drama is holding, I don't know the title of the show, but they're having their shows come up in December, so they're working on that currently. Catherine Kolnaski just had a ribbon cutting for the ceremony of their new outdoor learning space, which Project O worked with a lot of the like fourth and fifth graders on, so I think that's pretty interesting. The middle school just had their student council decide on their spirit week for next week, and they have some, so next week is Halloween on Tuesday, so they have a date for that. They have a school spirit day, I think that's Monday, so I think that should be good for them. And then Mystic River, they started these new community meetings where they kind of, students that are chosen by teachers or nominated, they get chosen because they represented like a specific quality of the month. So I think October is, I think they chose fun, so that should be, interesting. I don't remember what September was. I believe it was courage. But so they, have their community meetings and they kind of honor those kids and they get like a little spotlight. And then some of the older students, like the fourth and fifth graders, they started using robotic kits. So like the Legos, you put them together and then they get to code them, which I think I used to do that in maybe third or fourth grade, and I thought it was pretty cool. So having, other kids getting to do that, I think that's also pretty good. But that's all I got.
Any questions from members of the board or online from the board?
Yeah, what's going on in the senior class?
Senior class.
Ooh, the one you're in?
Our senior class.
Our senior class? I was like, anything in specific? No, we have nothing really. Class council elections are soon for every class, so that's exciting. Hopefully we get some people to join, also like join just more student council. I felt like there's been a lot more, because it's our senior year, just a lot more engagement in the school, I would say. Is that a fair assessment? Yeah. Just a lot of, because it's our senior year and we're trying to make the best of it, it's a lot more like,
have to do stuff.
yes.
You gotta be part of it.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Okay, perfect. That's all I got too.
So she did not take the bait, Dad?
No,
Okay. Just making sure you got that.
she rarely does.
All right, listen, thank you so much for coming, and Mom, thank you for, and Mom.
And Mom.
And Dad, but.
And Dad.
And you get to stay, please. But you guys are more than welcome to stay here for the rest of the meeting, or you are more than welcome to leave. You
I
can-
know they're pretty busy. One just came from work, it looks like, too, Zoe.
Yep, still on.
Oh, she's still on.
So we might get a call in the middle, that would be
Yeah.
kind of fun.
I turned the volume down, so it
Oh,
shouldn't be too
darn,
bad.
I would love to hear that, not really. All right, so I'm moving, I feel like it's a full moon, and it's only a half moon.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night, all.
So I am going to turn this portion of the meeting over, actually, I'm going to take a deep breath.
I don't know if you can hear me. Are the parents still there and the scholars? I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Catherine is walking back in.
She's walking back in.
I'm so sorry.
Dr. Ackerman.
As you can tell, I never get sick, but here I am at Lawrence. And when I emailed Rochelle to tell the scholars that I wouldn't be available on Saturday, it just totally slipped my mind to tell her about this. I didn't remember this. I'm remembering it now, so I thank you and I apologize to you.
Oh, no.
So I'm sorry about not raising my hand. I couldn't find the icon. And I wasn't going to tell anybody this because you know me.
Yes.
But I have, let me just apologize to everybody, and I'm going to be fine. Bye.
Yep, and we're going to save the introductions to all of the scholars, most likely in the beginning of the new year, so
Yes.
that you can be physically present and all that good stuff in all of your glitter and glam, and so that you can show off your hard work, but also that the scholars get to be acknowledged for the hard work that you all have done, not just to become an MLK scholar, but all the work that you did prior to that to get you there. So I'm
Thank you.
very
Very
happy and very thankful that we do that. So Andrea, you did not miss a beat.
Okay,
All right.
get on with business.
All right, I'm going to
Thank
go
you.
on to business. But before I introduce or turn this portion of the meeting over to Susan, I ask that the board turn to page 3 of the agenda, please. And on number 9 is we are going to have a discussion and possible action around the superintendent's annuity, and that will be going into executive session. And so to that end, what I'm asking to do is that we are going to just move the number 9 to after we talk about what we have done as board members. In other words, number 9A, future meeting dates, and future meeting dates and calendar items for board's action, with the suggested agenda items, and then we're going to go back to the motion at number 9. That just makes more sense in terms of the Zoom. We do have three board members that are currently on Zoom. It just makes a little bit more sense to do it that way. And so I just need to have 2/3 of the board to say, yay, we can do that.
Yes.
Matt?
Yay, we can do that.
All right, thank you. Yay. Yay. All right, so with that said, that's how I plan to go about tonight's business. And Susan, would you please talk about your stuff?
I certainly will, and Lauren will help me out. She does all the legwork of getting the data together for us and analyzing it. We work as a team. As you know, that official enrollment dates are calculated as of their October 1 numbers, but they actually occurred this year, September 29th, was it? So, and that's where all the calculation comes in for impact aid, for our enrollment. But we have a very transient community, as all of you know. Not only is it the military community, but we also have many families who move right here in southeastern Connecticut. So we wanted to be able to give you a glimpse of what the enrollment data looked like at that date in the elementary and at the secondary level. And we also wanted to kind of break it down to high needs versus non-high needs, looking at special education, multilingual learners. We really wanted to disaggregate the data for you so you'd have a clearer understanding of all things, Groton enrollment, and and really looking at the economically disadvantaged and the military population and what that means. I've said before that we've had years where 700 have joined us and 600 have left us. So a net difference of close to 1,400 in most years out of a community of 44,000 and maybe 500 more that are 4,500 with our magnets. So it's quite a transient district. I don't know that everybody realizes that. It's something we're really proud of, but it really is something that is important for us in the community, keeping track of all this. I would also like to say Lauren Cassini, working with Rebecca Bayes and Kelly Slater, have really formed kind of this enrollment team and registration, including the lottery aspect, which we have in the intra-district magnets. So the ball is always moving. So we're constantly taking a look at this, checking it, and trying to make the best decisions around it. So I'm going to let you start by orienting us to your slideshow, or to the slideshow.
So you're just going to want to put the microphone closer to you.
And we might need to make it a little larger, Dr. Kennedy. Can it be in full view anyway, or as a slide? Does the slide get any bigger?
Zoom in like this.
And then I know board members have it in front of them.
Oh, my goodness. I need help.
Can they see that? Okay,
All right.
please.
So on the first slide, what we did was we took all of our enrollment, broke it down by school at the elementary level and then the secondary level.
I'm on mute, and I need my nurse to help me mute.
Andrea, do you want to mute?
And just send her name.
Okay.
I don't know if they could hear you.
Help me unmute.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Got
to,
it right next to you.
don't start singing, because I always had that urge.
So this is the enrollment data broken down by individual schools at the elementary level. And the dates and the information we took, so every year there are 2 snapshot dates is what we call them. The state looks at us, takes a snapshot of our district, and that usually happens on October 1st and then again in the spring. As Susan had said, this year, because October 1st fell on a weekend, it was September 29th, but they always refer to it as the October 1st snapshot. And so to compare apples with apples, we looked at last year's October snapshot versus this year's so that we can get a good sense of where were we there with our enrollment compared to this year. And so that's really what you're looking at across the schools, is the change in terms of total population in the building. So you can see that as an example, Klonowski is up 17 students as of October 1st. Charles Barnum is actually down 15. Mystic River is down 11. Northeast capped out with 0. And Thames River is up 3 students between October 1st of last year and October 1st of this year. Okay. Not to be confused with that's the number of children that's different. That's the number of actual enrollment that's different, if that makes sense.
So it's not kid per number, it is actually just the number of enrollment.
Of students in the building at that moment.
At that moment.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the same students that we're referring to. Okay, that comes later. So at the secondary level, Groton Middle School and Fitch High School, again, Groton Middle School is, has 9 students less than last year, October 1, and Fitch is up 14 in terms of enrollment. Now, other placements, we need to include them because they are still part of our district, so students that we may place out of district or are in specialized schools within the district, that's that number in there, so they stayed about the same, they're down 1 student. So total Groton students participating in Groton Public Schools, you can see last year, October 1, it was 4,104. This year, as of October 1, it was 4,099, which is a difference of 5, okay? Underneath that, you see interdistrict magnet, and so it's important that we include those students as well because we do pay for aspects of their education. And so those schools include Ledyard, all of the Learn schools as an example, New London. So that's what this number encompasses. So last year around this time, we had 260 students at interdistrict magnet schools, and this year we have 271.
And they also count for us in impact aid.
And they also count for us.
So we're trying to get that word out with impact aid for everybody to fill in their form.
Yes, I have a question. In the future, or maybe next week or 2, you could give us the breakdown of those 11-plus students and even the 271. Who, are they going to the high schools, marine science, and the science and technology in New London, the middle school, if they're at St. Bernard's or wherever, and then elementary?
I see a whole new chart in your future.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
thank you.
visualizing it right now. Thank
Well, I
you.
think it's important.
It is
to know
important.
where our students are attending out of district.
Yep.
Yep, and I do have that for you, so I can send that to you.
Thank you.
I just want to make that note so I don't forget. Okay. So when we look at those numbers, what our enrollment is, this is how we often talk about our students that fall into that high needs subgroup. And so when we look at that, what constitutes that high needs group, right? We
We know that it's our English learners, so our special education students, and students who are what we would consider economically disadvantaged, so students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch.
And there could be a student who's in all three of those categories, so you can't just add up the separate percentages.
Right, yeah. And so you can see clearly that we support a population that is, the majority does qualify for free and reduced lunch, and that does play into all of the different pieces and layers to our district and the things that we need to pay attention to and work towards and find grants and funds for, so that number in particular is significant. And so just a breakdown by school. I'm trying to make this fit on the screen. I don't know why it's not. All right, let me start with the special education population. So this is a breakdown by school, our special ed population. You can see that Mystic River and Thames River, which does house some of our special programs, have the highest needs and the highest numbers of enrollment for special education. So our multilingual learners, so those who may be learning more than one language, but English in particular, this is the breakdown for that as well. And again, you can see Mystic River is double most of the other elementary schools. CK is a close second, with GMS and Fitch behind them. And so it's interesting to think about here, while these are students who are identified as English learners, there's a good part of our population that does speak a different language other than English at home as their primary language. So just because these numbers represent who has been identified as English learners doesn't necessarily reflect the diversity in the languages spoken within our community, if that makes sense.
We actually give a lost links assessment, and so it's a 1 through 5 rubric, and once the students are proficient at 4 or 5 in reading, writing, math, they really can exit. But we have a lot of newcomers that come in and they're a 1 lost links, or they don't even speak the language. And so that it takes a few years for them with specialized care and attention with a bilingual TESOL teacher or highly qualified tutor who works with the teacher to help the children gain their scores, and also our really high quality classroom teacher.
Kim, if I might.
Please.
So just so I understand, we are differentiating between, when we say English learners, we're literally talking about people for whom English is a second language and they may not be current with their peers in terms of language ability, right? We're not making the assumption that just because another language is spoken at home, that they must therefore be unable to keep up with their peers in school, because personally, I spoke a different language at home, but I was, perfectly proficient in English.
That's why we have this lost links assessment.
Right.
It's really important.
So
that we
this
follow that.
represents those who have been identified as
Literally as. Right? So
literally
not making
learning
assumptions.
English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question, thank you.
Question, Kim? So if a student is identified as an English language student in first, second, third grade, and over a period of 2-3 years masters the language to a proficient level for their age level, do we still continue to classify them as English language learners once they've mastered it?
No, they exit that subgroup.
Okay.
They are monitored for, I believe it's 2 years. I believe it's 2 years. They're monitored after they exit to make sure they are able to, maintain their education as they had been doing. But more or less, no, once they've passed the loss, they're considered proficient and they exit.
I don't know if it'd be easy to get the data, but it would certainly show our success if we were able to say, and these schools helped X number of students exit in the past year or so. That
We do a deep dive on that. We use SBAC and other data to take a look at that. So that is something that we do at the district level, at the district data team, at the school level. So that's certainly something we can get to you.
Yeah, that's easily accessible.
I was thinking less for me and more for the other bodies that
Right.
look at our
For the
budget.
board. The board does like to look at that data, that's for sure.
And so what you're looking at here now is that economically disadvantaged makeup by school. And you can see that the majority of our schools, over half of the school, would qualify for free and reduced lunch. And while NEA does not necessarily meet that, it has increased significantly over the past several years. I just felt that was
How would
important.
that compare to, I'm sorry, Kim?
Go ahead.
How would that compare to our peer schools, our DERG schools? Any idea how we're doing compared to others?
In terms of not,
In
like
terms of
percentage?
economically, socially disadvantaged?
I think we actually, so again, I always refer back to Middletown and Hamden as the closest
Okay.
in terms of,
So if I can be so bold that is part of the DERG. That's part of the requirement. I mean, when we
The
get.
DERG data is similar.
Which is the is it diagnostic?
District reference group.
District reference group. So that's one of the criteria to have the same socioeconomic status, or economically disadvantaged.
There's a lot of
population.
factors that go into that, but also our alliance partners are very similar. We talk about that too.
So my
And-
guess is that we would be very similar because we are in the diagnostic rating group as them. So we would share that with Middletown, we share that with
Vernon,
Vernon,
Naugatuck,
Hamden.
Hamden.
Middletown.
Yeah.
And yet we do have some differentiation on some of our test scores within our DERG.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still
fine.
the criteria, I mean, I think it's still the criteria in order to be part of a district,
Reference group.
reference group, thank you. There is a formula, and so that's why we're not part of Hartford's or New Haven's. It's like, it's not just population, it is economic status. Because
We've-
all the ones that are in our DRG are also not Alliance. Right?
No, our district reference group is
All Alliance?
alliance districts. Maybe one is not,
Okay.
yeah. I would say, though, that since I've been here in 2014, our numbers were kind of 50-50 of students receiving free and reduced lunch and would qualify versus not. And now the number has kind of jumped up to 54%, which in the past year, to me, that was eye-opening. I don't know if COVID had anything to do with that, but it could have.
Samatha, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
that's fine, that's fine.
And then we looked at military
Oh, I forgot.
population.
I apologize.
That's
I-
all right.
I jumped ahead because I heard you say over time, and I jumped to the,
Yeah, that's all right.
the next slide. So
Sure.
yes, our military population, again, I'm sure it's not a surprise, which schools really house a tremendous number of our military families, which is CB, of course, and then Thames River.
And I would say that because every submariner goes to sub-school, you get a lot of young folks moving in to go to the submarine school and maybe being on their first deployment on a submarine. So we have a lot of young families at the elementary level. And then those who continue on in their naval career and maybe our CO of a sub are still here. But then we have, you can see the reduced number of military in the middle school and at Fitch. And a lot of them do retire here, so they wouldn't qualify as military population after they're retired. So they may stay here as a retired person as well, with older kids.
And so here's that slide that we were just on with the stats on our economically disadvantaged population over the course of several years. And you can see it's, although it dipped a little bit and it spiked a little bit, it's pretty much, we're holding steady around half of our community really being in need of supports.
I would say Ernie Koshmeter, who runs our nutrition program, has said that it was very hard to get data in that COVID time period for people to fill out free and reduced lunch. So I don't know that that's really authentic data. I think that's just, that could be as a result of COVID and not being able to get those free and reduced forms in
Right.
to know who needed what. So, and of course, we were also being given federal dollars to feed all kids at that time as well.
If there was an emergency, got nervous. Yes, and we have been having conversations as well about how to make sure we're really capturing all the families that could use support, because we do have a number of families that do not complete the form for free or reduced lunch. We're still looking to find ways to really capture all of those families that we can support, so that we can support them.
Especially at the military schools. You know, our military families get TRICARE, so they don't automatically get SNAP benefits because they don't need Husky insurance from the state. So really getting our, you know, military families to fill in the form and see where they land, so that if there were any opportunities for them, you know, that could be granted, so.
And I know Miranda and Ernie have both been working and have said in the past that informational sessions, they've been trying to hold those for military families, because there are things that some military families may be including as part of their income, but they don't need to, because it's a supplement of whatever it is, whether it's the housing, and I'm not really sure about what those pieces are, but that there are pieces that the military families are including in that income that they don't need to be. So just making sure even our military families understand how they can fill the form out accurately to truly get what they deserve to be getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we talked a little bit about this back in June, and this is just a catch-up of where we are now as of that October 1 date. Last year, we had 684 new students register with Groton Public Schools. This year, as of October 18th, actually, I apologize, the number is 691 new students registered to GPS. And so this number does include our preschools, our kindergarten, all of those new registers. So we've talked a little bit about the transient nature of our district. And so a piece that's important to planning, really, for our students and providing the resources that are needed, we really need to understand what we mean when we say transient population. And so when we do say that, over the course of 3 years, while we had 691 new students to Groton Public Schools, we've also lost several as well. And so there's this population turnover in our district of roughly 1,000 to 1,200 students a year. So in the grand scheme of things, when you really think about that, we're losing anywhere from a quarter to a third of our district every year. And so how do we use that information to support those kids who are in and out and in and out? We need to understand this better. So we looked at who were those kiddos. Who are the kiddos that were leaving? Who are the kiddos that are coming in? And this is really the two big groups that stood out, are our military families. So over time, what you're looking at here, the blue, is the percentage of transient students among the military population. Okay, so 60% of our military population in 2021 either came in or exited. 2022, same thing, 53% of that population either came in or exited, was transient, and then 49% as of this year. When you look at the red line in between, that represents of our total transient population. So of all the students we have classified as transient, coming in and leaving, 42% in 21. Our military families are 42% of our transient population, if that makes sense.
Dean, would you like to answer?
Yeah, hopefully this isn't one of those prototypical dumb questions, but
Nope.
when we talk about, we gain students, we lose students, are we adjusting for the students that actually graduate? Because
Yes.
they're technically a loss. Okay, so when we're talking about we lose, say, a quarter of our population, that does not include the 200 to 300 kids that we've graduated.
No, that does
year.
not.
Okay.
Thank you, and I wanted to mention that, so I appreciate you bringing that up. No, this does not include our students who have graduated, and it does not include our kindergartners coming into the first time. This is students who were with us, who are already in school, and who have exited before their time, before they've graduated, so.
Thanks.
There is some economics involved in this, though. If you have a turnover of 1,200 students in a given year, you think about even school supplies that are needed, workbooks that are needed, 600 leaving and then, 600 coming in or 500 coming in. And there is an economics to this in the budget, so.
And the same thing for our families that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. So you could see, again, the blue represents the percentage of those families that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. 30% of that population is transient. But when you look at that over our whole transient population, so that's everybody who's moved in and out, they're 47% of that group that's doing the moving. So that's a pretty significant, those were really the two groups that just stood out.
And this is only to October 18th.
Yes.
And we're already talking about the fact that we're a pretty transient school district, so that 43% could go up.
Potentially. We won't know that until next October, though.
Right.
But yes.
Yeah, I understand it's a snapshot.
Yeah.
But it's a snapshot in October 1st.
Yep.
And school has been in session for a month.
With this team that we have at central office, we do look at this at other snapshots. We do it at budget time again, so we know what we're dealing with at budget time. We do it at the end of the year. Next year, especially as Lauren will get into with the new kindergarten age, that's going to be a really important thing to take a look at. So I got you to that page.
And yes, you did.
You're like Caribbean.
I know.
And we also look at it from different perspectives too, and then try to make a decision like what will make the most sense to really paint the picture of who we are, because we did look at the transient population over our entire population. So we do look at it from multiple lenses, if you will, to really try to understand what's happening in our district and who our community is. Which, nice lead-in, Susan.
Segue.
Starting, new legislation has passed. I know you have heard this from us before, but I think it warrants us bringing back up again. Beginning in September of next year, the 24-25 school year, the age requirement for kindergarten has changed. So kindergarten students must be 5 years of age before or on September 1st. Okay, which is changed from this year, which it would, and past years, which was always January 1st.
Of the following year.
Of the
So we had a lot of
following
4-year-olds coming to school.
So when we look at this current, right, because we're trying to make decisions about next year without truly knowing next year, so we look at what is the pattern been, what is the trend been, what is happening this year. So if we looked at this year's kindergarten class through that lens, about a quarter of that group would not have qualified, or would not, if they were going to school next year, would not have qualified to enter kindergarten even as they were anticipating it. So a quarter of our kindergarten population will not be eligible for kindergarten next year based on the new legislation.
And that's just looking at the rear view mirror, seeing who we have now, and then juxtaposing it to next year. I've always said it's between a third and a quarter of the population.
Yeah.
So,
May I ask a question, Kim?
Please.
Yes.
I'm going to display my ignorance again. Let us stipulate, just for argument's sake, that next year we also have 364 total N. That's the eligible and non-eligible together under the current rules. When you take out the current rules, am I to understand that next year's class would be 271 because it would be only the ones who made the new date plus whatever ones you gave special consideration to
Waiver.
because you have a waiver possibility, but that the following year we would have the elephant pass through the entrails of the snake?
And we'd have a full FHS class of potentially 300, 330.
Okay,
So,
okay, I guess I did understand.
Yes, you did. Rita, please.
And I think Andrew has a question also. So when I look at this, I see a potential for savings because we won't have as many kindergarten classes. And I know once at a meeting, Mrs. Austin, you stated that maybe we'd have more preschool. But if we're looking at our budget, I just want to say that, you know, this possibly could be some savings for us in the future, unless we have a grant
Right.
to educate our preschool children, that rather than having more pre-K classes for those 4-year-olds that aren't ready and that definitely will not be ready by September 1st, since it's a new law in Connecticut, that is a way we could save some money in the budget. Just thought I'd let you know that. Thank you.
And so, Rita, Andrew does not have a question.
Oh,
It's
is
just,
that-
it's
whose
the
hand is
hand.
raised?
I think if Lauren moved her her cursor, oh, it's someone else's cursor. Maybe it's Mark's, but no,
Oh.
it's
Yeah, because it
not
looked
her.
like Phil for a while, and now
Yeah.
it's somebody else. Okay.
Go on. Thank you, Lauren.
Do you want me to wait, or?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm all good.
Okay. And so with the same idea, we looked at this current year's preschool and pre-K cohort, just to begin to wrap our heads around what the potential impact might be for next year. And so our pre-K program and our preschool program encompasses those kiddos who had turned 4, were eligible on January 1st. The integrated preschool includes students that may have an IEP along with peer models. And so when we look at that total group for next year, currently with what we have, which is just a fraction of what actually is, we have about 14 to 15% of our population currently that would not qualify for kindergarten come next year.
there's another piece of the legislation that the board needs to keep in mind, and that is that waiver process. So if a family has a child, let's say September 2nd or September 3rd, they probably will fill in the waiver and ask the child to come. There will be an assessment that we use, and we already have a pretty good system in place with a Brigance assessment and other assessments that are really highly recognized for early childhood development. And in addition, if a child has special needs, by law, we still have to provide an education for them, so that all of those kids aren't going to go away to have this great cost savings. And in addition, we still have to educate our 22-year-olds until the end of their 22nd year. So they, you know, that's an additional group number of students that are staying with us for a longer period of time.
Right. So any student who is turning 22 on July 2nd, as an example, we continue to pay for them until the end of the
They have to
following
stay a
year.
whole year.
So
Yep.
June of the following year is when they would exit.
Mhm.
So that's an additional year for that group as well.
How many students are subject, or do we have in that category?
We'd have to look. Denise would know the exact number.
I don't mean in terms of birth dates, but how many people do we have in the program, roughly?
That's one of the things, that they could be at the Transitional Academy, but they could also have other placements with Sharp Education. So, yeah, that would have to be another chart in our future.
And just an extra layer here for you all to just keep in the back of your head is that Miranda has shared that they are anticipating a boat joining us October of next year as well. So you know, we can anticipate definitely an influx of students then as well. So this is going to be, we're going to have to carefully monitor this and figure out Plan A and Plan B and Plan C as we go.
When we have a boat that enters, is there a heads up about how many families that would be coming to Groton? Because we're not the only school district that, I know that Ledyard and New London and Montville all have families that are boat related. Do we get a sense of that?
We get a sense, but now with new legislation around the compact, the military compact, all a family needs is a set of orders, so they could all come and enroll in Groton Public Schools, but end up getting houses other places, so we just have to keep track of where they're actually living. But they, with a set of orders, they can enroll into the district.
And
So ultimately be in someplace else?
Could be someplace else.
possibly. But we also, on that same line of thinking, under the compact, if there is a family who has a 4-year-old and they were enrolled in kindergarten in a different state, which many states do not have that, I think we're one of the few.
We were the last one.
Are we the last?
We were the last of the Great Mohegans.
Okay, so that may
No
not
more.
be an issue.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why
Yeah.
there was a big push for that.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So yes, we have a lot of moving parts here, and enrollment is always ongoing. It's a very complex process. There's a lot that goes into it. The data tracking, inter-district and intra-district movement that happens. There's usually at least 2 data systems that we're working from at a time. Like, so when we say that, we have the lottery and then we have registration, but we also have registration for the year we're in and registration for the upcoming year. So there's a lot of different layers to even the data that we're collecting and how we're managing that so that it's accurate and makes sense. The variables, including our magnet students and the seats they're accepting, and that those considerations are highly mobile or transient students, like we just talked about, our military, our economically disadvantaged families, and then grade level capacity. So building capacity, grade level capacity, so the movement that comes in, where they're moving, where we've reached capacity, where we need to place students, you know, in relationship to that. It's just this complex system that's always ongoing, and it never comes to a halt. We get a few moments of breathing room, but it's so important to understand who our population is. And the reason for that is if we don't understand who we're serving and who our community is, then we can't identify what the needs are and to secure those resources, and to build upon the strengths of our community as well, and the advantages of our community. But most importantly, I think the work is continual and ongoing and scrutinized because it allows us to do some proactive planning rather than trying to constantly react to legislation changing this and that. To have a really good understanding of what our district is always like helps us to do some of that planning ahead of time too. So that's our goal here.
I'm going to recognize Dean and then Matthew.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One that I've been thinking about for a little while here during the presentation, and that is we have a large number of students, large proportion of our students who are AWOL, what used to be called truant. How does that figure into our, how does that figure into your numbers? Do we treat them as though they're attending? Do we know, or are they treated as a blank or what?
They are treated, if they're registered with us, yes,
Right.
they are included in these numbers. That is a whole nother
Slideshow.
Right.
that's a whole nother slideshow. But yes, we do have things in place, and we're always, again, tightening those up, trying to find those students, trying to bring them to school, seeing how we can support them to get them here and their families. But that is separate from who is registered with us.
So we need to provide data to the state on chronically absent, and that's really 18 days out of a 180-day year, and that seems like a lot, but it could be a couple days a month, 2 to 3 days a month, that could actually end up being a chronic situation. And then the truancy is another level of that where they haven't really had, approval for the absenteeism, and they're just, like you said, not showing up, so.
My other question is this, and that is, Susan, you'd mentioned that the transient nature of our population results in additional costs. Do we have or does your office have a neat package to present to, not us, because we're the choir, but to legislators, for example, or the powers that be, whoever they may be? Sometimes we need a Ouija board, I guess, to figure out who they are, of what our costs are. In other words, because we have a transient population, we require, X dollars of additional expenditures for supplies, or we have to rejigger our transportation, our busing routes, and that costs X dollars.
Daily.
Right, so that you can say, look, this is costing us an additional $500,000 a year, or $1 million a year, or something like that.
That's a great idea. I think
Other than just saying, hey, it costs us more money, which we all know, that's a qualitative answer, but do we have a quantitative package?
I even think about tutoring and services that we need to provide when kids are moving in and out, and the work that needs to be done, looking at data and making sure that we meet the kids where they are when they've moved in, so.
I'm actually seeing, and I haven't forgotten about you, but I actually see that some of this would be great in the slideshow for when we do the presentations to the community for the public hearing, and also for the town council and the RTM, so that people can understand what we mean when we talk about transient, what we mean about the fact about what the population number is in terms of economically disadvantaged, if that's the new word that we're using. I mean, I think that would be really useful when people can hear what our budget is and what the plan is. That's
Right.
a really good idea. Good idea.
One of the things I'd like to mention, though, is with our 7th Department of Defense Education Activity Grant, one of the wonderful things is it's provided so many opportunities since 2014 in every area. Another thing, it does come with close monitoring and data collection, and we've been collecting data on all of our students, because what it provides is for all of our students, even though it's in the name of military students, and we get the grant because of the number of military students. But our data has shown time and time again that our military students, even with this transient nature, which you don't see this in statistics often, that they really are performing as well as the average, and that we constantly are monitoring their data and also the data of all of our students in addition because of these grants. And I really am so grateful to that.
Thank you. Matthew, I'm going to recognize Matthew, and then I see that William has his hands up, but Matthew.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to take Dean's approach to fiscal impacts from a slightly different angle. I'm looking not at the present tense, but I'm looking at 4 years. Let us stipulate that a Columbia-class submarine is based here.
It can't be.
It can't be.
It's
We
too
don't
big.
have, we don't have the depth.
The parking spot's not big enough.
Okay, well
But
then-
we build them here, so we will be having a large number of people here at
Doing their
Electric Boat,
training?
doing their work, doing their training, getting
Okay.
that boat ready to be launched, commissioned,
So
and christened.
you're going to have to correct me because I may well be wrong.
That's okay, it's the military child thing.
That's fine. Thank God for that. These, I understand, have A and B crews. So does that mean that we can look forward to the possibility of having to rechristen the SS Mary Morrison?
That's something we have to
So
look at.
let's stay
Yeah.
on-
Yeah, we have to consider.
But I'm thinking that, as you said, this is something that, letting the council and RTM know that this is out of our control, but a reality we may face. Education takes some time, doesn't it?
Yep. Thank you. William?
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize the admin and the team, for the Groton School District. I mean, having enrollment of almost 700 students each year, newly enrolling, I mean, I can't think of any other school district that has a number like that. And to be able to get everybody enrolled and everything, that's a ton of work, ton of labor. So I think we really need to recognize the system for doing such a great job and ensuring that everybody's getting enrolled that needs to.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, let's move on. Any other questions about our enrollment data? Lauren, this is great. And I just would love, I echo what Rita said in terms of if we can hear more about what the students that go to other places, if we can find out what the number is, I think, quite frankly, that's going to have a possibly a planning thing for the board to kind of take a look at. But I really appreciate Susan and Lauren, great work. If I can move over to the Director of Finance, yay, he's back. Second time at our regular board meeting. Welcome, Guy.
He didn't run away. We didn't scare him.
Still different seat. Hopefully you can hear me. So everyone should have the, we'll just go through the object code report real quickly, but for the month, I'm on the bottom here. So far year to date, I should say, expenditures of about 15,700,000. We've encumbered about 40,000 or so. So remember, 40 million that is. So remember, in practice, we try to encumber a lot of our certified salaries and contracts that are known to us. So what that means is we've either expended or encumbered about 70% of our budget, leaving us with 30.9% on which side. But there's really three areas here I'd like to talk through if I can correlate between a couple handouts here that I want to make sure you're aware of. So I'm going to keep them both in front of me here, but the first one is just health insurance. So although on the object code report, it doesn't look that alarming, but if you have a chance to go to my health insurance dashboard for a second.
Where it says energy dashboard on top, is it?
No, it should be a health insurance one too. There should be two different ones.
It's
There you go.
attachment 3 in your packet.
There you go.
I just got excited.
So our monthly claim costs, I'm on the right-hand side, top real long graph. For this month, we're about $1,244,000, which is, I believe, our 5th highest month in the last 5 years. So that's about 64% over the last month or August of last year. And it also means, just given July and August of this year, we're running about 38% higher than what we did last year this time period. So again, the object code report's great, but it doesn't really reflect some of the trends that we're starting to see. We're only 2 months in, so I haven't asked yet for detailed data on causes. We know at a high level, you saw your daily claims are only up about 1%. It's this mid-tier claims, the ones that are costing between 50,000 and 200 are up about, I have it here, I think I said 14%. So the challenge with that is, a lot of those start to develop and then become really large claims, depending on where they are in their progression. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of this. It's sort of developing information, would lead you to believe that, we're going to probably exceed last year's claim cost. Last year, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, is about $11,600,000. Just given where we are already, you'd consume a lot of that, probably by early spring. So I think there's more data to come. We can get some more information. I thought I'd give it a 90-day time period to start getting into some of the real detailed trends. But out of the gate, this is a pretty fast trend for us.
We were kind of expecting that we would start to see things move along after COVID, like some of the more routine things, but it sounds like these are even beyond routine kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And we did discuss, as with the superintendent and the finance director and the board, that we just had to be cautious when we were scooping up health costs to avoid increases in a budget, that we didn't want to get to the corridor, and we're almost there. So the corridor gives us about $4 million of leeway, but that is something that we're going to be watching ever so closely, and I will be making sure this board is very much aware of how that progresses.
The other area that we started to talk about last month that I want to dive into a little bit deeper is this energy dashboard. So I kind of put the dashboards together because sometimes you can't pick 3 or 4 of these lines out of the object code report. But, the energy dashboard really shows, the first set of columns, your electricity, usage and cost. In the middle, it's the natural gas. The right-hand column is oil. So those are sort of our big 3. I know we have some water. But similar to healthcare, if you look in the left-hand column, all the electricity, middle bucket where it says electricity usage. So, last month we were pretty much on par with last year. This month we're a little bit lower. It seems like September's a really big month from us. We've got about maybe half a month worth of invoices in yet, so that this is not a true reflection. But really what's more important is taking that usage and then moving your way to the top graph. We've expensed already $400,000 of our $1.1 million budget for electricity. So even if we run it last year, which we incurred $1,277,000, I think common thinking would believe, just given where rates are, this is another risk for us.
And
What do you
we're
mean
gonna-
by that? Missed
Go on.
course?
Excuse me?
What do you mean by missed course?
Risk.
Risk course.
Risk for us. Yep.
Risk for us.
Yep.
See, that's why you always make sure you know what someone is saying.
Yep.
But we've talked about studying this more deeply and working with the energy companies, working with Sam, and seeing what can be done ahead of time, seeing this picture that we're seeing right now.
Is this a place where we could do some collaboration with the town?
That's what we started thinking about, yeah. Yeah, we started talking about this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a once-a-month meeting with John Burt and his team, and me and my team. I've invited them to central office early next month,
Yeah.
in November. And so hopefully through that collaboration, we can kind of work together and figure this out.
Oh, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. Is this, do you believe, as a result of unexpected increases in services that we, was this something, because this was our budget from last year, and we got blindsided by the buses. Is this another area where this was kind of like we had built in a reasonable, what we thought was a reasonable, what we believe was a reasonable increase, but those increases have escalated beyond what we were anticipating. Is that part of the reason or the reason?
You were spot on. Yep.
And that's the thing is when we're going forward for the budget for next year, especially as you're starting, that conversation in January, if this board, presents to the town of Groton and the city of Groton, or the Groton residents, a higher than expected, 2 point whatever, people have to understand that a lot of this is out of our control. We don't control how much electricity costs. And we don't control how much the buses are going to cost, and oil and gasoline. And I really caution people to really take a look at what's happening in our community, not necessarily, we're just a reflection of what has to happen in order for us to meet our bills. And that's what I just wanted to say.
And know that we look for grant opportunities.
Oh, I know.
Everywhere we can, with the HVAC, with everything we can possibly get. And we're really diligent about not having to go, not having the taxpayers in the town to provide if there is a potential grant.
Rita?
When we look at the natural gas by location and electricity, it seems that the high school and the middle school, actually our larger schools, are using much more, but maybe there are ways that we could reduce some of those costs somehow. And also, Sam, will it make a difference when the middle school has the panels working? Will that impact the cost at all?
Well, when the panels are operational, it's a small percentage. It'll be a small percentage of the electric bill.
Just a small percentage?
Yeah.
And then when I look at the oil by usage, you see there are 2 of our schools that were built 11 years ago now. Northeast Academy and Catholic Quincy seems to be using the most oil. And then more efficient would be Charles Bonham's and Mary Morrison. We're still, you know, having oil there in the high school. I don't know whether or not if so there's no oil usage at Thames River, Groton Middle School and Mystic River?
No, they're all on natural gas.
They're all on natural gas, so that's why. But, and the high school, though, is, the high school is
High school is dual fuel.
dual fuel.
We're using natural gas, but there are occasions when we turn the oil on so that we can run the equipment to make sure that if we don't have gas available in a storm or something, we can still run the equipment.
Okay.
I might also add that
Anything from the town, because that is a refuge, Fitch High School, if power is out, where people could come and,
Good thinking, Rita.
food for thought.
and I did notice that we budgeted 40% less than last year for oil, which is a huge amount of money. It's up on the top under notes. So, just some things to think about.
Yeah, just a point of emphasis, we do have a technician on staff who monitors the oil usage or heat and electricity on a daily basis. So he's always adjusting those things to make them as efficient as possible on a daily basis.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. I did notice, I have to admit, driving by Mystic River, I was wondering why on the weekend at night, all the lights are on in the building when there's nobody there. So is there a reason? Is it because of vandalism or?
No, we have the same problem at the middle school, and we're
Yeah.
still working with the original contractor to figure that all out.
Okay, yeah.
It's all within
because
a program that we
It's so
have.
lit up. It's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
A lot of people have talked about that at Groton Middle School. It's a beam of light.
Yeah, well, that one I can't see as much as Mystic River. And Thames River is the same way.
Thank you for letting us interrupt you, but if you would like to
no,
kind of
no,
continue.
I just had one more that I just wanted to raise to the board, which is sort of a developing item on our bus contract again. Much smaller magnitude. And again, you can't really see it on this object code report, but now that some of the middle school and high school sports are underway, we had a learning over the last couple of weeks or so in terms of the cost for transportation of the student athletes to the various districts. And our first learning thus far is, you know, if you have a team going out of town, historically that would cost us roughly $150 for the event. Now, under the new contract, you know, we're paying mileage plus hourly, and what we've seen is the bus will go to, so let's say they're going to Ledger, the bus will go to Ledger, the driver stays with the bus, and now we're getting charged 4 to 5 hours worth of hourly rates because the bus driver's staying there. And it's actually stipulated into the contract that says, you know, the drivers may stay with the bus during out-of-town events. So a sporting event that once cost us $150 is now looking like $340 to $370 per event. So Mark's aware. We had a chance to sit down with Mark just to make sure he was aware of it. I don't know yet exactly, you know, how to extrapolate into a full year because we're trying to think of some other alternatives. But if you just think about the number of sporting events the schools have, I have to imagine it's going to start to add up on us.
Well, Mark Romano gave a really good suggestion, so he called Parks and Rec. They have some smaller vehicles that could take a swim team back and forth. So looking at, you know, having a coach, you know, trained to drive one of those little buses, and, you know, this board has talked about maybe we need to get a van or electric van, and maybe this might be our opportunity, because we certainly find that whether curtain costs or anything that Uber costs, when we need to make those adjustments for travel, for a student who might be in need or a family in need to get to a PPT, those things are really difficult.
Is this what we're noticing for trending for other bus companies to?
Honestly, I don't know. I just haven't had a chance to get into it. We just spoke with Mark last Thursday. We started to get some of the invoices in, and it just, you know, just didn't add up. So we wanted to just spend some time with him as well. So yeah, we need to do a little research on that. But at least contractually, it's stipulated that way in our contract. So it's, at least for now, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Floyd did do the deep dive. I asked him to look at that, and we paid for his services, so I think we can call him too and see if there's anything else in there that,
I think one thing that I believe Mark Romano could possibly do is make sure that the girls and the boys' teams maybe are on the same bus and schedule a soccer game at a school, let's say, all the way in Killingly, or Killing.
Yeah, Killing,
You know, do it at the same time as opposed to different days. And at one time, they did do that. They made a point of having
Woodstock, you're right.
the teams at the same co-ed, you know. I mean, there aren't sometimes, you know, when you have a soccer team for boys and girls, they would be able to be on one bus.
Sure.
So,
Yep,
all
good
sorts
idea.
of things.
That's great.
strategic planning
Yes,
is
yeah, so
necessary.
that's something that the athletic department maybe could look into.
Yep, I agree.
I don't know if you're landing a plane or whether there's information that you need to give to me.
Typically, when the boys are home, the girls are away.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
The girls are away. the boys-
Okay, so you were
Yeah,
doing
I
that.
know that, but I'm
Thank
just
you, Mark.
saying, maybe we could switch it.
Yeah, I think that all options are on the
Yeah.
table at the present moment.
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions for Dave? Thank you so much for the deep dive, and also just the understanding of the budget and the implications of this. Yeah, wow.
And I
lots of
appreciate
content.
the fresh new look and fresh eyes on it, and the willingness to like really think outside the box, and as we make our way through, I've told you that I've asked the principals to stick to 50% at this time as we navigate our way through, and I can do a gradual release when I'm feeling a little more confident, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Good evening. So let me give you an update on the projects that we have going on presently in the district. The first is the solar projects. At Groton Middle School, we're on schedule. The attachments of the pads were completed today. They'll be reinstalling panels this week, and the wiring for that project will start next week. And at Mystic River School, again, we're on schedule. The racking, which is the system which is going to actually hold the panels, should be completed. It's about 75% completed now. It'll be completed by the end of next week. And the mechanical attachments, when they're drilling through the roof, there are limited numbers of those because we've used the ballast system to hold things down. So there are some mechanical attachments that will take place next week as well. And while we're doing that, we have a maintenance person within the building to roam the areas that they're actually working in to make sure that there's no difficulties with something coming down from the upper levels while they're doing that. So we had a little bit of dust in one of the rooms the other day at the middle school, so we're trying to keep track of that at the same time. The third item would be the Barnum project, the roof project, which would also, because the state now allows for reimbursement for solar on roof projects, we are looking into that at the same time. So we have a kickoff meeting next week with the architect to take a look at, and the solar design people to take a look at that roof and have that ready for going out to bid for a summer project next summer. The Groton Middle School Field Lights project will be operational by early spring. So if you've gone by, you've seen that they've done a lot of excavation, digging trenches for the conduit and backfilled those. The foundations for the light poles are going to be shipped on November 6th and to be installed shortly thereafter. The poles themselves, which will go on top of these concrete foundations, will be shipped on December 11th, and the project is expected to be substantially completed by the end of December 31st. Wow. The Fitch High School elevator or handicap lift project ships, that elevator or lift ships this week. We are working with the architect on the drawings for the concrete slab, and as soon as I have those, we will pour the slab in anticipation of that lift getting here in the next week or so. It's coming from Ohio, I believe. And then the Fitch High School LED project, the new lighting project at the high school, that should be substantially completed before Thanksgiving. And so we got a status today that they hope that during those couple of days around Thanksgiving, when people aren't in the building, they'll be able to get the areas taken care of that can't be done during school hours, or with the activities that go on during the evenings at the high school. The other thing I wanted to report on is in Rotary we do good news, bad news, so I'll give you a little bit of good news and bad news here from the maintenance department, custodial department, and our custodial supervisor, Wendell Gaston. The good news is that he has decided to retire after 36 years and enjoy some time in Florida with his wife and his family. The bad news is that we have to replace him. He's really a superhuman being and really a terrific supervisor, so that's a bit of good and bad news. And
I enjoy the fact that he is going to be retired, but what a miss feat, what a miss for us.
That's for sure. And I guess the last item is this time for, I didn't look at the agenda, time for the CIP stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Is that going to be up? Are they going to call that up? Are you able to put it up there?
Are they going to be pulled up?
Mark, do you have that from the board packet?
No, he doesn't.
That Joyce, doesn't she send you a copy of the board pack, or no?
Just didn't get signed up.
Okay.
All right, so walk us through.
Okay, so the first page is the summary of the projects that we're submitting. Again, the Fitch High School athletic facilities is the recrowning of the football field. The Northeast Academy HVAC upgrade is to replace those HVAC units on the roof that would also include dehumidification at the same time, although we're controlling it now with active dehumidification. So we bumped that out another year to 2026, as long as this continues to work. And then the Fitch High School HVAC upgrade, we've got $5 million in there for that. That would be in the vintage area of the high school. The Charles Barnum HVAC upgrade, we have $2,318,000 in for that project. And those are all, there's details on these other sheets regarding that. And of course, the Fitch High School auditorium project, which Dr. Kennedy, he's not here now, but has submitted regarding some lighting and sound systems and such for the auditorium. I think also within his description, I think he also included, wanted to put forth the idea that at some point the seating at in the auditorium should be upgraded as well. It's been quite a bit of time since that took place. There are some seats that are broken. Parts are not available anymore for that. And in addition to that, we have, you may have noticed at the last graduation when we were inside that there's no real designated area for people that are in wheelchairs and such. So I think that would have to be part of the design, is to make sure that we make room for that where they can be evacuated if necessary in a more reasonable fashion. So, and then I guess I would take any questions on any of these items if you'd like.
So this is what's being presented, I'm so sorry, I would just get me in the same field. So this is what's being presented to the town manager.
Yes, we submitted this last Friday. It was due last Friday. We submitted it Friday
Okay,
afternoon.
so you're just letting us know what the completed.
Yes. Everything that you asked us to resubmit, we did, and we've added the Charles Barnum and the Fitch High School HVAC upgrades. And we have also applied for grants for that HVAC stuff too, which would assist in the payment of that should we get those grants.
Thank you for your
My question
patience.
was about the elevator at Fitch High School. Did you say that they were putting in an elevator?
Well,
For the-
we call it an elevator. This is at the field house. We have a,
Oh, that one.
we have a student coach
Yes,
who is
yes.
in a wheelchair, and
I
we need to
see.
get him up into the office and team room on the second floor.
I thought you meant in the new part of the building.
No, it's going to be on the outside of the building. It will lift
It's a
him up
lift.
through a door, and then this particular lift that we've ordered, elevator lift that we've ordered, can actually be taken down again should the building, should the building be redone. So it could be used elsewhere in the district, so.
I think another important piece to this work that Sam has done is on page 2, if I orient you. So it really talks about our school needs for the future, elementary with Charles Barnum, secondary with the field house, concession stands, football facility, also architectural plans to accomplish the task with the female and male lockers to make it really equitable. And then I would say, in addition, looking at, I probably should have had the bleachers is a real concern. So I think we just need to continue to put this on everybody's radar and not let go of it. So this is a nice way of doing it without putting the number that the gas spat, in the front page. So just keeping everybody informed of this problem hasn't gone away.
Yeah, I believe that we were instructed by the town manager not to include these larger items in the CIP. They were too large for that because they would have to go out to referendum.
Right.
And as I believe Matthew asked us to do, we included that in the summary here on, under the secondary schools page.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board about the CIPs? Sam, I appreciate the fact, this is the third time that the CIPs has come to the board. I know it's a lot of work for you, but I think that it really helps the board understand this, especially as January happens and we go into the budget, that we're holding this in mind, because sometimes we're so busy with all the other things that we forget about this stuff. So your efforts to this, and I really do appreciate that a lot, sir.
Thank you.
You got it.
I just want to thank the staff that's out tonight. I know some of you have, further to travel, so, drive safely on the way.
You're staying.
If you're, yeah.
I'm going to ask.
Oh, yeah,
Dave's
Dave's got to stay.
So.
But the rest of you can.
All right, so
Head home.
I'm moving us on to committee reports. Andrea is no longer here. I think she has left. But I know that we're talking about, sorry. Jay, I know that you sent a message, and it's just too far away for me to read, and I don't have one of these in front of me. And
He says he logged out and logged back in. He's traveling.
He's traveling?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I do have someone here from Finance and Facilities, so you can talk about it. Is there anyone here from Policy?
I was absent at the last policy meeting.
Okay, but I do know that we have several policies that we are going to be, one for its second reading, and we have a couple.
I can speak to them.
And so Rita, you're Susan, Rita's to my right, you're to my left, so we'll do that. And curriculum,
Yeah, we had our meeting at the beginning of this month, about a little over a week ago. We basically are wrapping up this session and preparing the agenda for the next. Dr. Piazza took down the notes about how we've addressed and changed or added or enhanced the tracking sheet, so you should be getting that soon. If you don't get it, Kim, let me know, and I'll make sure that that gets there by the end of the week at the latest. But the other thing is that we're just taking a brief look. We're just looking at, okay, how were the curriculum, the different curricula that had been updated, how were they updated? And, what were some of the major issues that we were working on? But we've really seen nothing in those that have caused us to have any concerns. It's just really updating like timeframes and things of that nature, nothing really major. But yeah, that's about it.
So those updates, your curriculum committee feels like
They're fine.
And they don't need to go any further?
No, they don't. We've looked at them. They are not out of the realm. It's more of, out of the realm of the posted curricula already. It's just that they're just getting finessed or adding a little, like a unit here to enhance this topic, but the topics are already there.
Okay.
All right, so there's nothing really that I'm concerned for.
And we're also going to be, you've already talked to the American Sign Language and the 20th century, but we are going to, we're going to vote on that. All right, thank you very much. Dean, do you want to speak to anything around the finance and facilities?
I can't because I'm drawing a blank. If I'd known, I would have been better prepared. I think I'm working off of an unreliable memory on that one. Jay's with us. He should be with us.
Jay, can you speak to anything in the finance facilities? I know you're traveling.
Guess so.
I don't recall anything earth-shattering.
Okay. All right, so negotiations, we have a communications. Oh, my goodness. I thought it was curriculum. I was wondering why that was twice. Matthew.
We met just before this meeting. Susan joined Phil and all the board members, and Rebecca, of course. We had representatives from, I believe, all but one of the elementary schools, plus the middle school there. We asked them, what they were doing, what needs they had. They asked administration several questions. The plan going forward is they've asked us for the minutes, which Phil and I will put together, and we'll wait to see what they want to do. And Rebecca made a couple of suggestions as to how we could just turn the lens ever so slightly and encourage some different new approaches. But it was in my opinion, a very productive first meeting.
Mm-hmm. So this was a meeting to explore, because in the past several years, that's okay. That's why you pay me the big bucks. We used to have quarterly meetings with the Board of Ed and the PTO representatives with administration to meet. And so this had been gone for a long time, and this was sort of like a kickoff, like what do we want, what do we need?
Clearly there used to be I think the word was council, there used to be a PTO council, and that had its lifespan and terminated. We've been through COVID, and these PTOs, many of them are, I don't want to say struggling in the sense of not functioning well, but the workload is very concentrated, and one of the major issues, Susan can comment if she thinks I'm mistaken, is engagement of more family members. So the purpose of the meeting was to listen and not to propose.
Awesome.
And they listened to one another.
They
came up with some really good ideas.
They listened to one another.
Good, I'm looking forward to hearing sort of what the outshake is on that. Outshake? I'm not quite sure if that's a word, but
It's not.
but we're just going to go with
rock
that.
Rock on.
We're rocking it on. All right, so I am going to move us on. Matthew, thank you very much. Negotiations, we do have a date, November 5th, so that's in 2 weeks, and that's going to be mediation, and that is to, we're feeling hopeful that we can come to some resolution and be able to offer things for our paraprofessionals. And so that's going to be, I think November 5th is the date for that. Learn, that would be you, Rita?
Yes. We had a presentation by the Preston School Superintendents that was absolutely fascinating. He provided a very comprehensive discussion of his team's focus on what the present and the future, like the new landscape for students and educators is going to be. It was really fascinating, and I could pass along the PowerPoint if anyone is interested. I also received which was really lovely. Recognition with myself, Aaron Daniels from Norwich, and Craig Esposito of Stonington for our 30 combined years of service to learn, which was really lovely. And a lot went on, but one thing I wanted to mention that I'm hoping that maybe Susan you can follow up on is that ACES International, which Learn is a part of, they have an international program for educators as well as for students. And this year, some of our students who are at Three Rivers Community College are going to be able in, I think it's in January during their break, to go to Portugal. They also, the Marine Science also has a young Chinese girl, I think she's a freshman there. And they actually pay Marine Science $19,000 a year to go. So these foreign students, if they want to come to our schools, we could actually charge tuition for. And she's here with her mother, which is, I thought, really nice. And she wants to stay now the next 3 years because she's just so happy to be
Kate
here.
Erickson has shared that, and she has a
Yes.
lot of enthusiasm for
Oh,
the program.
very
and
much
I've
so.
mentioned it.
Well, she went to Singapore.
Yeah, she did.
And the other thing I think that's really outstanding, since so many of our students attend the Marine Science Middle School, Marine Science High School, is that they were recognized as a Blue Ribbon school. Actually, they're the #1 school in the state.
Yep.
Which is so amazing. And Dr. Cardona had congratulated them and recognized them for their exemplary, high-performing National Blue Ribbon School. I mean, that's because of all their AP courses, their ECC courses, and how well the students are doing. It's pretty remarkable. But
And I think a good percentage are Groton Public School students.
Yes, they are Groton Public School students. So that makes me very proud.
Me too.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next two is the liaison with the town and city council, RTM and Board of Ed. I believe that Matthew was here as well with myself and Susan. What was really cool was we had our state reps and our state senator, so Heather Summers and Andre and Baumgartner and Chris Conley were present, so that we could kind of, each one of the our colleagues could kind of talk about our concerns. And once again, they really appreciated the fact that they could come together with us in a way that they could then get more information out, because we could all report out. And I think that one of the things that was interesting that Chris Conley spoke to is that we are no longer considered a distress community, because on the formula, it's the low unemployment in our area, and that takes away our distressed status. But when we just have a presentation about our 54% of economic distressed, there is
makes you wonder.
Makes me wonder. But it was a great meeting, and we had also this past week on Wednesday we had the AJSA, GEA, and Board of Ed liaison, and the big news, not big news, but really what they were talking about was subbing staff. They're just having a hard time with that, and also our Groton Middle School, just as it was predicted that we were going to need to get another wing built, that there's just not a lot of room in Groton Middle School, and the finagling between the teachers have in terms of room. I mean, I think that we talked about this beforehand, but so there was a lot of talk about the Groton Middle School and the staff. And what I thought was kind of interesting is that they were not, what I really appreciated about what the staff did was that they just wanted to hear that we knew about that, and that there is no easy answer, but that we needed to and this was it's going to be a long-term process, but that for them to know that it wasn't something that we were just poo-pooing, but that we actually heard and understood. So I just wanted to let you know that I felt good about that. The other thing too that they were speaking to is just the needs, the level of needs that our students and our families are having, not just on economic disadvantage, but just the needs of the mental health needs, the educational needs. And when you looked at, once again, Lauren's report, and it said, was it 20%? Was it special needs?
Mm-hmm.
Was it
20%.
20%?
It's one of the highest
That is a lot. And I'm glad that we are able to provide services, but that does speak to other challenges. And so I really felt that the teachers, the staff that spoke, were very eloquent in talking about how difficult it is to be a teacher. And I think that is something that we're hearing from other communities, and we're definitely hearing it on a national level as well. And so I just wanted to report back on those things.
Can I add to this, because you did leave?
Yes, please.
Oh, well, the one thing I did want to mention about the Groton Middle School is that some of the staff are leaving because of the difficult working conditions, constantly having to move classrooms, or they don't have a set of classrooms. Even one of the people on the committee that presented to us told us she took a job where she's going to have to travel, receive less money, but the situation, it was less stressful. So I think we have to be very, cognizant of the fact that our middle school teachers are really very, very, very stressed. The other thing is that the buses are often late at the high school, and it is something that we need to definitely work on. They get marked as, I think it's excused absences, but sometimes they miss almost a whole period. So they talked about that. They talked about the elementary dismissals and was wondering whether or not the board had a policy on elementary dismissals. It is extremely chaotic. A lot of parents are coming to pick up their children, not only just at Charles Barnum, but Mystic River and Thames River, and they were going to ask if the town could have a school zone in front of the schools, which would really help.
We do not have it in front of all the schools.
No, we don't. And
But
so,
I will reach out to Chief Fasaro on that.
yes, we
And
definitely
I know
have
that
to
I've
do
asked
that.
transportation, they have GPSs on all the buses, so we track the comings and goings and when they're late. And the principals do reach out to me and reach out to Sam if there is a problem that it seems to be reoccurring.
Right.
One-off, like today, I think we had a bus that needed repair, so they had to send another bus out to the school to pick up the kids. So that kind of thing does happen every now and again,
Right.
but it's the ones that are a trend, and it seems to be happening every time,
Right.
is a real problem.
And are we having that? I mean, if the teachers if it got reported?
We have not noticed that, but I've asked for them to do a GPS kind of tracking on buses.
Yeah, but they did say the parent pickup is out of control.
Yeah.
So that's just something we should, and I don't know whether or not we have a policy on that.
Well, the middle school and high school, there's a long line picking your child up and
Yeah.
dropping them off. And,
But
you
I
know, we
think
did
that's
have that
more
accident,
organized.
which we were very
Right.
careful. We had retraining of everybody.
Yes, but it's not, I think the elementary schools are very chaotic.
And it's because they have early dismissals or at dismissal?
At dismissal.
Thank
So
you.
many people are there to come pick up their children. Cars are going here and there, and it's just not done in an orderly fashion.
Okay. Sam, can you speak?
Yeah, we do have one bus that has had chronic lateness, let's say that. And our coordinators are looking at moving some kids from that bus to a different route and possibly getting that there about 10 minutes earlier. So they're working on that presently.
Okay.
When we consider how much we pay for our bus contract.
Yes, you're right.
We shouldn't have any issues.
You're right.
Groton Scholarship?
Yeah, our first meeting is November 9th.
Great. Athletic fields, that's J, and I don't think that there's been any new movement on that. Trails?
Nothing to report?
Library?
Nothing to report of interest to the immediate board from the library. but the Groton student represented to the library happens to be a member of our Robotic Falcons team, and was just delighted that at the recruitment session, they had 4 new women sign up to be the members. This is a doubling of any other female recruiting to move women into science. So
Yay.
I thought you'd like to hear that.
Thank you very much, Matthew. The Permanent School Building Committee has not met, and I appreciate Sam giving me clarification that that's really a town council committee, and it needs to kind of come from the town council, and there has not been anything that has been brought to. What I plan to do in the next couple of days is to reach out to Rob LaFrance, who,
Robert Austin, the franchise.
yeah, and he is the chairperson of that, and to find out how to kind of to begin to sort of activate that committee again. Specifically, if we've just talked about the Groton Middle School, we have on our CIPs, we have bleachers and athletic fields and field house that we might want to start getting that committee just to begin to start thinking about what that all looks like. So that is something that I will reach out to Mr. LaFrance for. And did you have the military council?
We had our first superintendent liaison meeting, but we did not have the state council meeting.
Okay.
I
Rita?
just wanted to make one correction. Kim, I believe you said our negotiations was going to be November 5th. That's a Sunday. It's November 6th. It's on a Monday.
You're right.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to, so I was just looking at that, saying, I don't think we'd ever have mediation on a Sunday night,
No,
but
no.
it's a
No.
6th.
Thank you very much, Rita,
You're
as
welcome.
always. All right, I'm moving us on to our consent agenda, in which, just to remind people that all matters are listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Points of clarification will be allowed. So I will take a motion for approval of our consent agenda.
So moved, Liz.
Can I have a second?
Second.
That would be Matthew. Any discussion?
Yes, Kim.
Yes.
On the minutes, under student representation report, it refers to Katie Subashi. She graduated.
Ah.
I think that they meant Catherine Regan.
I think you're
That's
right.
it. You're right.
Nice job. Anything else? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Oppose? That motion has been granted, and the Board of Education would like to say thank you to the Groton Open Space Association, also known as GOSA, who has donated $4,000 to the district to be used by the school's transportation to any of the GOSA properties throughout the school year. So thank you very much for doing that. That is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Have we sent a letter of thanks to them yet?
No.
After we do this, we send the
Okay,
letter.
thank you.
Right. Matthew, would you please be willing to read the motion for under old business, number 1?
Thank you. I move the second reading of policy P5118, non-resident attendance.
Can I have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
I have Liz. So would you like to kind of walk us through this, please?
So we have, the enrollment team has stayed together to review policy as it relates to kind of the processes that we've been through, and this was one of the first ones that we took a look at, non-resident attendance. So we do have several students who do not reside in Groton but pay a tuition, and that tuition is set by the board, and it's 85% of the per pupil spending cost. And so, that is an option, for people who live. I think one student came from Westerly, a couple were from Stonington, and one might be from East Lyme recently. So we just had to really have a policy around this, since we're actively, dealing with people who either try to enroll, but they're not Groton districts, and we say that there would be a fee for this, or, they could have lived in Groton at one time and wanted to come back. So they would pay that per pupil cost. So this is really from CABE. You see all the language in green. There were a couple pieces in black that were originally our Groton work, and then you can see all the red behind that has been crossed out because of the updates that were done and the legislation. Was there anything I missed, enrollment team, data team, with regard to that? So we really went through that to make sure that it was updated for when we have these situations that we deal with.
Any discussion from the board? Dean?
Yeah, it's a small thing. I'm going to play Andrea tonight. I think it's in the existing text, but I should note it anyway. Under number 6, it refers to section 10-253 of the general statutes. There's a symbol for the euro there that can't be there.
What is that?
That statute has a number of subparts, so I don't know whether that was meant to be a reference to a specific subpart, or
Okay.
that's just,
I will look that up.
yeah.
Thank you for finding that. Look at you. It's not even just about commas anymore.
Anything else, or was
It's a
that it?
euro.
He's on the finance
Yeah.
committee.
No, that's it for me.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? And the part of Andrea tonight will be played by All right, all those in favor to approve the policy P5118, non-residents attendance, as a second reading, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Oppose? Abstentions? That motion has carried. William, can I have you read number 1, motion under new business, please?
Motion to approve policy P5131.111, video surveillance as a first reading.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Liz.
Discussion.
So there were not many changes in this. Dr. Kennedy was very helpful. Now that we have new cameras and wiring in our schools, we're very cognizant of this video surveillance. I think the main issue with this was that we wanted to go beyond what the state authorizes to go to 60 days, so that if there is a problem in our schools, we're able to look back at the video, whether a parent requests it or we request, or have a situation, at least we've saved that video for that period of time, at least 60 days. So that's the only minor change.
Any other questions for the first reading? Hearing none, all those in favor for the first reading of policy P5131.111, video surveillance, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried. Rita, would you be willing to read number 2 under new business, the motion, please?
To approve policy P5112.2, admission requirements for Groton residents as a first reading.
May I get a second, please?
Second, Liz.
All right.
This was a labor of love. We've included Miranda Chapman, who is our liaison with the military. We really took a look at, especially now that we have fresh eyes on the enrollment and the registration process, to make sure that, especially with the documents and the regulations around proof of, residency and children's age, you can see that we've really gone through this policy. We've added a few new pieces of language, and we've taken away some parts with regard to, information that we need when someone enrolls. So a lot of the language is still in here from before, but there have been a few subtle changes. I think one of the things, when you go to the page 2, we are now an intra-district magnet with inter-district magnet options for our students. So it's really important that our students, even if they're going to Marine Science or New London, that they are enrolled with Groton, and we know who they are because they have to prove that residency when they go to apply for an intra-district magnet. And the same is true with our intra-district magnet choice at the elementary level, that they really have to first enroll as a student in our school district. And you can see that some of the documentation was really important for us to make sure that people came with a documentation in column A, so one form in A and one in B, which really safeguards us because it really shows proof of residence, whether through a lease, a mortgage, a purchase or escrow agreement, property tax bill. If they are saying they're living with a family, either temporarily or for the year, they have to sign an affidavit, a residency affidavit. It's got to be notarized. We say that if this is not found to be true, then that they're perjuring themselves. And we do send security staff out just to do health and wellness visits to make sure that people are saying that they're living where they say they're living. And I think this is something similar to other districts, what they have done to tighten up the process. And then military families only have this 30-day follow-up because they are able to take orders and say they live here, and then we do a follow-up on that. And then with B, we really want to know that they're living there, so any sign of an electric bill or a bill that shows that they're receiving utilities, a pay stub, so we take something from column B, which also shows that with an address label that they're living there. So I would just say that we were very careful about what we wanted to put on the list and make sure, because it's you know, if we tighten up the process for entering in, then we're less likely to find later on that someone has, you know, decided to come to Groton Public Schools but doesn't live here. And that happens in a lot of big districts.
Well, I think that was in the news quite a bit last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About some local school districts that were having lots of students who didn't.
We've had many
live.
people, family members, who've come to sign that affidavit, and as they're being sworn in, we tell them, these are your rights, but you need to know that if we go out to do a home visit and the child needs to be in that bed, sleeping, you know, in that house for the 5 days, and they've absolutely turned away and said, I can't do this. So that has happened when we were very clear about the legislation.
Any further discussion on the first reading of this policy?
Or the font is different in some of the additional
I
text.
do see that too. Thank you.
Serif versus non-serif, yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought
We'll accept typeface at any background.
All right.
here to provide
Thank you,
levity.
Matthew.
I will say font issue.
All right, fine. I'm moving us. If there's no further discussion, to approve the policy P5112.2, which is the admissions requirement for Groton residents as a first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Abstain? That has also carried.
Now, staff, hit the road. I know you were staying for that. Did you have anything else to add? We're all
Nope,
set?
We're all done with
Okay.
it. We can't, I'm not, we've
No.
just voted on that. All right, Dean, can I please have you read motion for number 3, please?
There's my punishment.
Yep.
I move to approve the topics in 20th century United States history curriculum.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Rita, thank you. All right, Liz, please.
As you know, the state requirement is only for students to have 1 credit in social studies or in U.S. history for graduation. This is now being taught primarily in the 10th grade, which is fine. The thing is, for this course, this is an elective so that the students actually can get past Vietnam, so that we can get kids to more modern time, you know, more current events in, you know, current history, which is essential. And this is why I would like to have increased, you know, credits in social studies, but that's another conversation. Anyway, this will help cover anybody who's really interested, and it's really important. We've had a course similar to this in the past. But this is a new and improved, and that's why we asked for it to have it's completely redone. And it also is more thematic, so that, it's not going to be so chronological. And it's going to be in the IB model where you get to choose different topics. I'm going to ask you to look at, there's no pages on this, I'm sorry. So economic changes part 2, that's like the 3rd, 4th page in. If you skip to the back, to right before it says part 3, domestic policies and reforms, the page before that, you've got a number of resources here. You've got a number of, so that when they're doing Keynesian economics and comparing Reagan economics and all different types of things that's economic history, I think it's really important. And we had a very good conversation with Todd Higgins, who was one of the authors of this, and I've known Todd for a long time, and this is one of the best things that have come out of that department. And they've had the time to work on it, and it was a collaboration of a number of people. And I want to shout out to that social studies department at the high school, because they've done a nice job updating what was a tired old curricula.
So this will be available when?
For next school year. So
Okay.
it's going to
put
go
it in the
into
study.
the program of studies for this January.
Cool.
So that the kids can sign up for it for next year. So if a person is interested in U.S. history, they get an opportunity to do this. They have to do their full credit, but they have another half credit that they can go for more. And I'd love to see this really expanded, but.
And this is something that we talked about in a committee of the whole
Yeah.
in the fall.
Yeah.
Are there other questions?
Though this is not an AP class per
No.
se.
No.
In your opinion, would successful completion of this give somebody the tools to be able to sit for the AP exam?
No.
Okay.
This is the AP exam covers this information. Okay, the AP course covers from pre-colonization up through modern time. And they've had, the last year, the trends have been into the 1980s, I believe it has been, in the 90s. So this is more of a supplement for anybody who's just interested in history, who just likes history. But no, I don't believe it would be to their benefit. They're going to be taking the AP US in the 11th grade or the 10th grade. It depends if they're doing IB or not, because that's one of the reasons why the AP was being taught, AP US was being taught in 10th grade, is so that it's prepping them for their IB courses. And that's a consistent trend for students who are taking IB in our country. That has happened, Florida, Texas, big states like that.
Thank you.
Rita?
I have a question actually for Liz.
Yep.
Why did they move the U.S. history AP course to 10th graders? I mean, I've always felt it should be 10th and 11th graders should.
Well, they can do
10
from what I
No, I meant a 2-year course.
A 2-year course?
So that
Oh, God,
you could
Rita, that was a
cover-
while ago.
Yeah, so that you could cover both. I know East Lyme High School does that. If we want our students to be successful on AP exams and just have a general knowledge of U.S. history, I would really stress doing U.S. history as a former history teacher also as a 2-year course, and like Liz says, having 4 credits for social studies.
I don't remember. It was a long time ago that they switched that, and that was under, I believe that was under John Luciano's, or was under Joe Arcarice, one of the two.
Joe Arcarice.
They changed it, and primarily, if I remember, that's a while ago, Rita, it was all part of.
No, but
So
my recommendation would be to have this as a 10th and 11th grade.
Well, that's AP.
So that we learn more. But even if it's not, just for students.
So I'm going to bring
learning
us
more.
back to the curriculum.
Sure,
Thank you.
we'll pass it.
Any other further question? Yeah.
Okay, so here I go. And it's nothing to do with fonts or anything else.
Okay.
I'm going to throw these out here just. So September 11th, which led to the Iraq War, this isn't the course purpose. I personally, and I don't think I'm alone in this one, find the link between the two debatable. because the first thing we went into after September 11th was Afghanistan to get at the Taliban. Debatable whether the Iraq War was a natural consequence of September 11th, or whether that was going to happen for different reasons anyway, kind of thing. It was the same administration. Again, just throwing that out here. The other thing that I found very curious was, and this just may be a sort of a random choice, is, and that is under Part 2 standards.
Part 2 standards.
Part 1, U.S. in a globalizing world, and then the next page where it says key content, knowledge, and concepts and skills.
Okay.
And it starts with understand and analyze causes, practices, and effects of the Vietnam War. Fine. And then apply their understanding from the Vietnam War to a second 20th century, 21st century foreign conflict. In other words, you start with Vietnam War.
Right.
And use that as a jumping off point for going both backwards to Korea and backwards to the Suez Crisis and then forwards to subsequent conflicts. And I don't know whether this is just sort of a, you could have started with the Korean War and moved forward from there, or started with the first Gulf War and moved backwards from there, and the Vietnam just happens to be a random choice. In other words, why the focus on the Vietnam War as a starting point? Because, again, to my mind, rolling into the Vietnam War, I think people had in mind the Korean War. It's only afterwards that we consider, especially our generation, considers Vietnam to be a very public black eye and a disaster. But that's not what people were thinking of rolling into Vietnam, I'm sure. Not that Vietnam is necessarily like Korea, but I think people had that in mind.
It was the dominant theory of the time.
Well, I also think too, Vietnam War is probably one of the topics that the students showed most interest in, because I think when you're doing an elective course, you're looking to try what's the hook. How can I get them more interested? And then this is a very IB thing, where you take a case study, so they're doing, the Vietnam War is their case study. And then they're applying what the case study is, the causes, the practices, what happened, and then looking and using that information to analyze a different war. So, okay, yeah, they will understand that the Korean War was prior to the Vietnam War, but they're looking at those things that were indicative and that were unique of the Vietnam War, and looking at these other different conflicts. And so, and you notice some of them, like the Suez Crisis, is not an American base, but it's going to have American implications, So you've got some things in here that they're trying to understand foreign conflict, not necessarily just war. So I can see this, having taught these types of things for a number of years with the IB, this is how IB sets it up. You get a case study, and then you apply that knowledge, and you try to use different things to say, oh, well, I understand that, okay, this happened here, and this is what has applied here. So I believe it was more of their choice, and that they felt that this was the war that most kids were really interested in, that they hadn't really gotten to, because we know that World War II, I could go into history, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
So,
I just wanted to say, this was, I believe, a choice to help teach the concepts of different war. And they're analyzing that war. It's not they're negating anything else.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because for children of today, Vietnam may as well be Korea. I mean,
Yeah.
as a topic, it was well before their time. And I think, this is just me maybe, that the focus of the Vietnam War has more to do with the adults who are the children of the Vietnam War, if you will. They were either there as teenagers in the streets, or they were watching the news, or they were the children of people who were marching in the streets. But for today's children, from a neutral point of view, Vietnam, Korea, the Somme, Battle of the Somme in World War I, all ancient history. So I think the focus on Vietnam, I mean, it may all work out. Maybe it doesn't make any difference, like I said. You could start any period in history and work backwards and forwards.
Yeah, you can.
I just have this thing that Vietnam is still stuck in our brains, and that Korea, because of the way it went down, was especially forgotten. I'm looking at you, Kim. I know I'm minding the time.
Thermopylae.
My father was in Korea, that's why, and he felt a little forgotten about that. You know,
Yeah.
so.
So any further question about the curriculum?
A spelling error.
Where?
I'll channel Dr. Ackerman on that list. Number 2, the Bosnian War, I think there's a letter N is missing. If we
Yep.
can correct that before we...
Bosnian War, Bosnian War. Got it, thank you.
All right.
I got it.
Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving, let me just get the topics of 20th century United States history curriculum. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain?
I'm abstaining this time.
And Dean is abstaining.
I could talk more, but I won't.
Liz, would you be willing to read number 4, motion?
Motion to approve the American Sign Language Level 4 curriculum.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Matthew, thank you. Once again, this was something that we talked about, and we were just looking forward to having the curriculum map. And Liz, what would you like to tell us about world language?
This ASL 4 was developed in conjunction with the model that is used for Spanish, as French, and any language that we're going to have at the high school level. And it's an essential class now that these types of classes are being offered. Of course, we have our middle schoolers are getting more foreign language, or world language, excuse me, input. They're able to take classes, and so this is just a natural extension of what we need to have, in my opinion. And so, and it was extremely well done, and it was, like I said, it wasn't done in a vacuum. It was done with the assistance of the other world language teachers, so that they are all following a similar model, and the expectations and the rigor is there. So that's one of the things that, you know, I asked that question about, well, you know, how does it compare in rigor to the other, you know, the other class, the other, whatchamacallits, the other world languages, and they were able to show that it's much rigor, and I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what they said. But this is available. It's also something that shows high interest. The students have a high interest in this. It is also becoming quite an essential component in society. We know that people who are deaf need to have, are very much at a disadvantage in our society. I know that when you have people, let's say at the hospital, and I think Dr. Horgan, you can probably relate to this. I know my daughter has talked about as being a nurse at a hospital, that is very difficult, especially when you have a deaf person, if you cannot communicate. And, you know, it's just another avenue, and there is so much interest, and the students are, the things that they are learning, it's incredible. So.
Any other questions about the curriculum? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the American Sign Language Level 4 curriculum, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried as well. Number 5, when Susan, a couple weeks ago, or was it last week, went to the town council and the RTM, I realized that we probably would be really nice for us to also put ourselves in the seal of the deal. So I am going to be honored to read this motion, is to accept the DODEA Military Connected Academic and Support Program grant in the amount of $1,025,000.
250,000.
Yeah, that, which has already gone through the approval process through the town bodies. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rita. Any discussion?
Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
comma,
all those,
Susan.
all those in favor of the motion that is on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried. All right. It is a requirement by town charter for us to make sure that we get our meeting schedule into the into the town clerk, so that these can just go into all to the Groton meetings. And so I think what has happened, it looks like you and Joyce really have kept.
We just kept it status quo, and I just want to remind you that we're going to have to respectfully engage our new members of the board. The reason that we went to these Tuesday meetings at 6 was for a particular board member who was on the committee, but as the committees change, we've got to agree on this, but then if we change, then we have to create special meetings if the dates change. So just to make you aware, we just kept it status quo.
Liz?
I also want to state here on the Groton Scholarship Fund meetings, it says the first Wednesday, but that's not necessarily true. It's like we're meeting on a Thursday, I believe. So that's.
This says for information only. This
Yeah,
doesn't hold
right,
you to
but-
it.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's just, it all depends on what the group decides. All right, so I don't even know how you address that here.
Well, you don't have to because it's only information. What we will have to address is what we're putting together as a meeting schedule
Yeah.
that goes out in advance. And when we get our new members on the board and people decide what committees they want to be on,
Yep.
we just have to double check those dates and times, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we tried really hard to, just for continuity for the 9 of us, is that, like, just to know that every Monday of the month outside of the 5th, we would be at meetings, whether you would be at a finance committee meeting or a committee of the whole. But that is the presentation. Anything else for discussion? Rita?
Yes, I would like to also add, for information only, that the AGSA GEA BOE Liaison Committee meets quarterly. Usually it's at 4:15. So I feel that, if we have the town and city councils there, we should also have.
Yeah, we usually don't have that on here, but
But if we have that, then we should add the other.
you are,
We can do that.
you
Thank
are
you.
not. So, any other question? So with the addition of the liaison meeting with the Board of Ed, AGSA, and GEA, we're okay with that?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor of the Groton Board of Education 2024 meeting schedule, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? That motion has carried. Matthew, would you read number 7, please?
I'd be honored. I move that we approve the preferred class size guidelines currently presented as attachment 13.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second, please?
Second,
I have
Liz.
Liz, a second. All right, Susan.
This is really the same preferred maximum class size that the board has had for many years. I think we did tweak it last year, but there've been no changes from last year.
Do I have questions from the board to the superintendent?
And this accords with this accords with the teacher's contract?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes. I would
And
like to
even the
see-
space, like culinary arts is limited to 16. Should we ever get that architect in there to make those adjustments, we can
Right.
possibly get more students in there.
Mm-hmm.
But for
And-
now, that's what we have.
I would also like to see art go up to 25. I know most of the time they have over 20 students in the art classes, and there are enough space. So if that's a possibility, because many students want to take art as an elective.
And I will check on that. Usually the art rooms are a little larger. And there's no reason why high school would have to be 4 less than what the middle school has.
Right,
I would
yes.
just say that because it says preferred maximum class size, it doesn't mean absolute. It's preferred.
Yes, it's preferred.
So would you want, just Susan to kind of come back to us
No.
during the budget time to
No,
come back?
I think it's
Okay.
fine.
But I'll
Maybe
keep
during
that in
budget.
mind when we're scheduling. Thank you.
Any further question? Hearing none, all those in favor of the preferred class size guidelines, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That motion has carried, and this will be good for your budget conversations. All right. Rita, would you please be willing to read number 8, please?
To approve the proposed 2024-2025 school calendar.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Liz.
All right. Discussion, we talked about this I believe it was last week. All
It's
that I
based
ask
on the
is that-
regional calendar.
Yep,
For-
all I
for-
ask is that we could do Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples' Day in October.
Oh,
You
yeah.
want that Columbus / or
Yeah.
Columbus in lieu of?
I would love,
That's how it should be.
right.
Well, the town has not done that, so we have not done that, but I would be happy to be the first to take the lead.
Yes, please.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor to approve the proposed 2024-2025 school calendar, please say aye.
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 Oppose?
I'm opposing, and I'm opposing because I feel that since Labor Day is so early, I would like to see our school start on September 3rd. That's it.
Okay.
We had a big discussion about this at our COW meeting.
Thank you. Any abstentions? That motion has passed. Okay, number 9 is still on the table, but as I mentioned earlier in the evening, I'm going to ask that we go to the rest of the meeting and then come back to number 9, which is going into executive session. Rita, do you have anything
Yes.
to add?
I do. I attended the very inspiring Martin Luther King Scholarship Trust Fund dinner, and our 3 students from Fitch High School received scholarships. Gianni Martinez-Drab, who actually it's really lovely to see the children of actually students that my children went to school with. It's pretty amazing. Calvin McCoy III also received the scholarship, and Catherine Reagan, who we spoke to this evening. They were just outstanding. It really is very heartwarming, and I wish we could, I don't know if they film it, I don't think so, but it would be great to see their speeches. They were wonderful. I also had another concerning email and a phone call from parents at Northeast Academy about the fundraiser.
Oh.
So if you could
That was
get
the
back
last
to-
year of the fundraiser.
I know, whether it's the last year,
Yeah.
it was the second year, and I think it has to definitely be discussed under board policy.
Okay.
That's it.
Are you going to refer that to policy? Is that
I
one of your-
did, when we had our referral,
You
like the
certainly
last time we did that. Yeah.
You certainly did. Ms. Kim didn't catch it. Would you make sure that gets down on policy? Thank you. I will try to remember that as well. Dean?
Pass.
Liz?
Pass.
William?
Pass.
Oh, my goodness.
Well,
Hands are blank.
William
Quiet
was
month.
also there, because he sat next to me.
Yeah.
We'll have communication committee things for referral. We'll be doing that at our special meeting at the
Right,
end of
and,
this month.
oh, okay, great, thank you. But did you have anything that you wanted
Nope.
to add in
Nope.
terms of
Nope.
the stuff?
Matthew
And I'm sad
attended.
that the band
Yeah.
got rained
Yeah.
out. That was always one of my favorite things to
Yes.
go to.
That was sad.
Yeah.
I think that they were worried about the kids getting drenched, but more worried that their instruments
Oh,
would get
yeah.
drenched.
Oh, yeah, no, it had to.
But it's not just the drenching, it's the field.
Yeah.
And it's the poor quality of the field, their inability to walk safely on
That's
that
true, too.
field. And
That's
that
true, too.
is of big concern. And I challenge Groton Town to rise to the occasion.
Right.
They gotta do something. That field hasn't,
Whether to recrown it for now until they can figure out the rest of the field,
they
it
gotta
is
start,
a
they gotta
safety
do
issue.
something.
Yep, I agree.
So, just note that we have lots of things that are coming up on our meeting. Really, it's a busy month. And then future planning, right now there is no permanent school building committee. I think I would prefer us to continue to keep that on there, because I think it should come back eventually. But but what have you. Do we have, outside of the fundraiser for the policy, do we have any other agenda items?
I had a question on the future meetings. We were going to review the 9,000s. Which date is that going to be?
So that's going to be tacked on to one of the committee of the wholes.
So that we'll be able to have a second reading if it passes the first on the 27th?
So the first has already passed.
Okay.
So we're going to have a second on probably either the 13th or the 20th.
Can that be voted at a Cal meeting?
We're going to have a special meeting that's attached to the committee of the whole
Got
meeting.
it. Thank
We're
you
talking
very,
about the
very
9,000s.
much.
The 9,000s, the
Thank-
bylaws.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Yep, and there is going to have, I'm trying to organize around getting another meeting for the 9,000s. All right. Any other things up for discussion? All right.
Can I just, one thing, do you mind?
Please.
Staffing, do we have, I'd like to have an update about staffing at the high school, middle school, the elementaries, you know. I understand that we've got a couple of holes, and I was wondering how, you know, where we're at in
I
terms
think
of
that
staff.
comes up in the next month on our
On our thing?
on
Okay,
our
I didn't
monthly
look, I
agendas. Yeah, I
apologize,
just
but
wrote that down.
I just really would
for
like to
Lori.
know what's happening.
Yeah.
And also, I don't believe Lori ever came back about the beginning, we had asked her to come in the beginning of the school year to tell us about the
Yeah.
hiring and. our
She's
class.
aware, though, that that's on the calendar coming up next month.
I know, but
So-
that's usually in September, the end of August.
I think it must have been shifted last time
We
we
shifted
did
it because it didn't make sense because she didn't have complete data. So
So-
why have something?
No, I meant how many teachers left, how many were hired, we did have data about that. And why people, you know, the interviews that, were they happening or not? Why people were leaving, because we had 10 people that resigned, but then another 20 left. So why?
Okay. And she does exit interviews? So we find out
She's
most,
supposed to, but I don't know if she has
most of it
time,
is
'cause
with
she was
retirement and
yes.
moves. I noticed that she
Yeah.
did calculate that.
She had two, she was.
So we
wearing
just
two
need to
hats.
get that data, and we'll make sure that we get that. So hiring and where the holes are, and if, when people are leaving, what are the
What are
stated-
the reasons?
What are the reasons,
Right.
right?
And
Okay,
more paras.
We're working on that.
working on that. All right, am I hearing nothing else? All right, so I would like to have a motion where I am going to propose not propose, I am going to give a motion that the board goes into executive session to discuss the superintendent's annuity, and I am going to ask that our business manager, Dave, join us. Do you want David or David?
Oh, Dave's great.
Dave's great, okay. So Dave the Great, to join us. Can I have a second?
Second, Liz.
Right, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Night, Sam.
So, William, if you can just stay on, and you don't need to be here. I just asked for
You
David.
didn't want me to stay?
No, I think it'd be.
All right, you got all the data.
Yep.
I can go home.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So we're now into executive session.
So we're now going to go into executive session. William, can you hear us?